The Africa CEO Forum came to a close on Tuesday in Cote d'Ivoire's commercial capital, Abidjan, with renewed concern over the global terror threat, especially after the attacks at 7 GMT today in the Belgian capital. Cote d'Ivoire, of course, is still reeling from the effects of an attack last week at a popular weekend getaway at the Grand Bassam. Nearby in Mali, we also saw another attack. Business leaders and government officials had gathered to discuss the way forward for the continent in economic terms and how to address such security threats as well. Uche Okoronkwo now joins us live from Abidjan with more. Uche, terror of course does remain a key threat right across the board for investors across the world. How was the news of these attacks in Brussels received in Abidjan, and were there any solutions proposed from that end of the world?
Rama, you are right. It was received with a lot of shock and surprise here as anywhere else in the world. But of course, there was also the acknowledgement that this is not just a problem for one continent or one country. This has now become a global issue. Of course, President Ouattara came out quite strong, reiterating the fact that he was not going to let this attack, of course, affect the economic growth that the country has seen so far. And of course, investors seem to agree. I mean, if you look at the numbers, the IMF says the country will grow by 8.4% and will continue to grow. The ratings agencies seem to agree. The Fitch actually upgraded the country to B+ from B in November. Moody's also upgraded the country to Baa3. So investors don't seem spooked. They don't seem ready or to be insinuating at any chance of a downgrade anytime soon. Now, of course, Cote d'Ivoire is a country that has been doing quite well. It is one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. In fact, we know that there's a lot of confidence based on this conference in the government in terms of infrastructural development and in terms, of course, of future development in the country. Now, of course, as you said, it's no longer just a problem for Africa, just for Ivory Coast. It's also a problem in other African countries. Nigeria is facing a similar issue. Mali, we know, faced a similar issue when gunmen attacked a hotel in the country last year. And I'm actually joined by the CEO now of that hotel, Mr. Mossadegh Bali. Welcome to the show, Mr. Mossadegh. Now, of course, this problem is causing a lot of concern in terms of how it's going to affect business on the continent, how it's going to affect tourism on the continent. Now, looking at your experience as well, what are your thoughts on the impact these terror attacks are having on the continent?
Thank you. Definitely there is an impact because when we have these attacks in the coming weeks after the attacks, people tend not to come and to delay their travels, to delay their conferences and meetings. But true enough, after a couple of weeks, they regain confidence and they start to come back because the tourism, especially the business tourism, is much more resilient than the leisure tourism. Countries like Egypt, Tunisia suffer a lot from the terrorist attacks, and people who go there for let's say the sea, they tend to go elsewhere. But in our countries, people have business to take care of. You have diplomats, you have military personnel, you have businessmen who have projects in our countries. So they will come anyway. They will have maybe different attitudes. They will be much more cautious, but they will definitely come because they have business to take care of. So it has an impact overall, but I think the impact is limited in the time.
Now, what are the strategies businessmen like you employ to make sure that this doesn't become a problem in terms of your bottom line? Can you tell us about your own personal experience with your hotel?
Well, first, and that's key to us, we have a very good dialogue with the governments. Now we have armed personnel that the government provides us to guard the hotels. We also raise the security level. We train our staff. We have security companies which are in the hotels, and we also invest in equipment like scanners and this kind of material, security material that we didn't have before in our hotels because we didn't need them. But today, the number one criteria for a guest to choose a hotel is security. It used to be internet, but today it is security. So we are investing in all kind of security material to secure our hotels, and we are also happy to see that the governments are now quite aware of the danger of the security problems, and we have a good dialogue with these governments, and we have armed personnel who are now in the hotels. So this is what we are doing on our level and also with the governments to make sure that the people who come, who still come, are in a secured environment.
Now, what are your thoughts on how African governments have approached this security issue? Of course, in countries like Nigeria, there's been a lot of criticism towards government in terms of the security apparatus they're putting together. Are you happy with not just Mali, but the rest of Africa? And do you think it's adequate? Do you think they need to do more?
It used to be maybe less adequate, but I think now the governments are aware of the danger. They see that if they don't really have proper policies to tackle this problem, then we will have economic downturns. We know that the problem is not only a security problem, it's also a development problem. We have to develop our countries. We have to give hope to these young people who go and kill themselves in terrorist attacks because they just don't have hopes. And so they are easy targets for these, I would say, terrorist recruiters. So we have to give hope to these youth people. So that means we have to have more investment. And investment will create jobs, but to attract investment, you have to tackle this security problem. So I think that now the governments are much more aware, but what we need now is maybe a regional cooperation. Government of a single country cannot tackle this problem, cannot win against the terrorism. So we really need regional cooperation, African cooperation. We need to put together all the intelligence to combat these terrorists.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bali, for joining us. And there you have it, Rama. Like Mr. Bali said, pretty much echoing what was said at the conference as well, it's not just about security, it's about government, it's about development, infrastructural development going forward. Back to you, Rama.
Indeed, thank you for those insights. That's Uche Okoronkwo in Abidjan. She's been covering the Africa CEO Forum in quite a bit of detail. Thank you for that.